friends, and welcome back to Every Arnold Movie Ever, Episode 6, or as I like to call it, the Arnold Yard Sale. Let's clear out all the junk stuffed in a box in a dark corner of the basement, including a fascinating follow-up to Pumping Iron I didn't even know existed until I started this series. And look, we gotta move fast, because we've gotta make room for the good stuff. They're wheeling in a carton of Conans, Commandos, and Kindergarten Cops. I got a truckload of Terminators, Twins, True Lies, and Total Recalls, and a rack of Raw Deals, Red Heats, and Running Men coming. Come on, we're so close. But first, let's head back to 1979. Arnold was in a bit of a holding pattern. He was put on retainer for Conan the Barbarian, but the process of getting that movie to screen was long and daunting. Arnold was busy training for the role, reshaping his body once again, but he couldn't wait around forever. So he took on some smaller parts that would hopefully keep him in the public spotlight without damaging his reputation. The villain got it half right. It didn't have a chance to damage his reputation because no one saw it. And now we're going to get into the weird stuff. Let's see what other oddities Arnold took on before his acting career changed forever with Conan. And first up is a subpar entry in the subgenre of star-studded ensemble race movies in the vein of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, 1979's Scavenger Hunt. Now, these madcap movies were all basically the same. A giant collection of stars make a mad dash to find a MacGuffin or some money, like Cannonball Run, Cannonball Run 2, The Great Race, the cartoon Wacky Races, Around the World in 80 Days, the Blues Brothers to an extent, and the most recent version that my friend Bunker loves, shout out to Bunker, 2001's Rat Race. That was the last movie of this kind, actually. Not exactly a lively genre these days. Now, Scavenger Hunt is directed by Michael Schultz, who gave us Car Wash, Cooley High, and Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Oh man, and here I thought Barry Gordy's Last Dragon was Barry Gordy's Last Dragon. They should have called it Barry Gordy's Michael Schultz's Last Dragon. This movie opens with Milton Parker, a mega-rich game inventor, as you can guess, played by Vincent Price, and his entire role consists of him lying in bed playing an old video game with his nurse. Maybe it was new at the time, I don't know, but he doesn't say a word and then immediately dies. And because he's eccentric, he leaves his money to his relatives and staff, if only they can win a scavenger hunt. Ooh. So we follow 4 teams of people around as they rush all over San Diego in search of all sorts of bizarre objects, which we'll get to in a second. The cast is stacked, I guess? Usually these types of movies are filled with a mix of big movie stars, comedians, and stunt casting from the era. Mad, 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 Mad World had Spencer Tracy, Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Buddy Hackett, Ethel Merman, Mickey Rooney, etc., etc. Cannonball Run had Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Roger Moore, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Jackie Chan, Peter Fonda, Terry Bradshaw. Rat Race had John Cleese, Breckin Meyer, Amy Smart, Cuba Gooding Jr., Whoopi Goldberg, Rowan Atkinson, John Lovitz, and Smash Mouth. So, you still love this movie, Bunker? Scavenger Hunt brings together Vincent Price, Cloris Leachman, Roddy McDowall, Tony Randall, Scatman Crothers. Ooh, he was also in Stay Hungry. Meatloaf, and Cleavon Little in roles of varying size and scope. I guess Vincent Price and Meatloaf were their big gets. I don't know. Cloris Leachman plays Vincent Price's sister, and she's basically the antagonist who teams with her lawyer and her son. Then Willie Ames of Charles in Charge fame teams with 2 random people. Tony Randall teams with his kids, and Cleavon Little teams with the rest of the house staff. And the movie is a jumbled, confusing mess. We're never actually told what items they're looking for, so it's just scene after scene of a group of characters trying to find, whatever. A toilet from a fancy place, a suit of armor from a museum, a heavy man in a checkered shirt and black pants. But here's the problem. The audience is never let in on any of this. So we have no investment in anything going on screen. You're just watching some characters go to Jack in the Box and steal a Jack in the Box head. Okay, I'm sure that was on the list. Also, it's nice to know that Jack in the Box had tacos even way back then.
Tacos!
There's also no reason to care about these characters. We're given no information or motivation beyond, oh, that's the sister, that's the cousin, those are the young kids, that guy's a dad. and the teams don't actually interact until the last 10 minutes of the movie. And while there are like a tiny baby's handful of mildly amusing bits, the entire thing is just so painfully grating. Every single scene goes exactly the same way. They tell us they're looking for an item, they find the item, they try to retrieve the item, something goes wrong, it ends in screaming. Every single scene ends with characters screaming at each other. Everyone! Here's just a taste because I love you all and I don't want to hurt you.
Duplication! What do you call it if it's not duplication? They killed Bunny! They killed Bunny!
So I squirmed through this entire movie waiting and waiting and waiting for Arnold to show up. And finally, at the 1 hour, 16-minute mark, there he was. Oh my God, Arnold, it is so nice to see you with that beautiful feathered hair. So Tony Randall's character goes into a gym, and I'm sure we're not told what he needs, but there's Arnold in a nice white polo shirt with the Kansas City Chiefs helmet on it? What? This takes place in San Diego. That's weird. Okay. In the commentary, yes, I listened to the commentary, director Michael Schultz said Arnold refused to take his shirt off for the part because he was saving his physique reveal for Conan the Barbarian and didn't want to give it away in a shitty cameo. Which I think is very funny because why would Arnold need to take his shirt off in the first place? He's the gym manager who's assisting a customer. That does not constitute getting topless. I mean, I get it. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, and maybe that explains the Chiefs polo? They were like, oh shit, wardrobe didn't bother with a shirt. We just thought the guy would be topless. Hey, Gary, can we borrow your shirt real quick? Side tangent, when I was looking for an image of a boom operator, I came across this t-shirt. Being a boom operator is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire, you're on fire, everyone is on fire, and you're in hell. It makes no sense and I hate it. And on a hunch, I dug a little bit deeper. Didn't have to dig that deep. And it turns out it's just a catch-all meme where people plug whatever job in there. Walmart sells one about being a bookkeeper. But boom operator is like the least, oh my God, everything is on fire job. Like, you point the boom at the thing making the sound. Yes, of course, it requires some skill. But at no point is anyone like, oh my God, everything is on fire! Unless, you know, you're covering a fire. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, right. Scavenger Hunt. So Arnold's cameo is all of 3 minutes long. He plays Lars, and he's, you know, affable.
You have a problem. How did you get that?
And the big gag in this scene is that Tony Randall is trying to get a medicine ball for the scavenger hunt. So Arnold throws it so hard that Tony Randall goes out the second-story window with the ball. And Arnold gets one final shot looking down at Tony. I like how his leg is up like that. And that's it. I can't believe I sat through that whole thing for less than 3 minutes of Arnold wearing a Chiefs polo. Scavenger Hunt is not streaming anywhere, and rightfully so. So I had to buy it on Blu-ray. I splurged. And Amazon was kind enough to accidentally send me 2 copies. So if anyone out there enjoys suffering, or you're doing your own Every Willie Ames Movie Ever series, I will send it to you. Otherwise, I will throw them away. I'm kidding. I'll probably hang on to these like an idiot, and then 5 years from now, I'll find them and go, oh my God, I still have these? And why didn't I ever finish that Every Arnold Movie Ever series? I didn't even make it past Conan the Barbarian. Anyway, Scavenger Hunt stinks. But what do I know? Siskel and Ebert loved it.
My dog of the week is one of the most pathetic comedies I've ever seen. It's Scavenger Hunt, which is not only about collecting trash, this is trash.
After Scavenger Hunt, Arnold tackled a bigger role on a smaller screen when he starred in a TV movie called The Jayne Mansfield Story, starring Lonnie Anderson as Jayne Mansfield and Arnold as Jayne's second husband, a bodybuilder named Mickey Hargitay. And this one has it all. Arnold dancing, Arnold wearing floral patterned shirts, Arnold narrating, yeah! Arnold narrates. That's a bold choice.
Having her picture taken with a gorilla as a publicity stunt for a movie premiere was typical for Jayne.
We have Arnold in old age makeup that's about as convincing as Mandy Moore in This Is Us, or the old lady in Midnight Mass, or Guy Pearce in Prometheus, or probably more on brand, Sarah Connor in the alternate T2 ending. Actually, never mind. Turns out that one wasn't so bad. Arnold gets second billing here, highest on the call sheet since Hercules in New York. I'm very excited for him. The story follows Jayne Mansfield, a blonde bombshell actress in the mold of Marilyn Monroe who met a tragic end. Here she's portrayed as an exceedingly intelligent woman who dumbs herself down and puts on an overly ridiculous Betty Boop voice.
I have 163 IQ, Mr. Garrett. Is that good or bad?
And plays up her sexuality, often degrading or objectifying herself to get ahead in Hollywood. Arnold plays Mickey as a loving, doting husband, and it's certainly a meatier, pun intended, role than anything he's done to this point. He gets to emote, have a romance, and do a lot of eyebrow work.
Jayne, we have been through this before.
He's actually asked to express quite a range of emotions here with varying degrees of success, but I think he acquits himself.
It's Mickey. You don't have to sell me. It sounds to me like it's the same kind of part again as she just did on stage.
That's all right for now. Besides, the studio wants to get her on screen while they're waiting for the Rock Hunter script.
Well, wouldn't she be better off to wait for it?
It'll be your next picture.
I hope you know what you're doing.
I love you. How many times do I have to tell you? I love you. Don't you understand that?
It's more akin to his performance in Stay Hungry, with a touch of his charisma from Pumping Iron, all squeezed down to TV acting standards. Although, his yell acting isn't quite there yet.
Hey, her heart is set on it. That's all she thinks about. She sees all the films. She's right now at the studio getting more books about Harlow.
I'm not trying to tell you anything, Mickey. I'm just telling you I don't know.
Well, then find out.
The movie itself is fine. I have the DVD. It's on YouTube, but I didn't realize that until after I bought it. So here's another one I'm going to find 10 years from now. It follows the standard tropes of a sanitized biopic with a little bit of the dark side. At the 1 hour mark, Jayne magically turns into an alcoholic desperate for fame. And literally one scene after their wedding, she says she hates Mickey and wishes she didn't marry him. Then the next scene, they're fine. But then her drinking gets worse and her career drops off. She hits rock bottom. Mickey and Jayne divorce. And then we're taken to the night where she dies tragically in a car accident. And the movie is bookended with the accident. They show us the accident at the beginning, then we go back to it at the end. But what they don't show us in the beginning, and they give us this super fun reveal at the end, is that her kids, including her daughter, Mariska Hargitay, were in the backseat of the car. Jayne dies, and then young old Arnold gives us a little wrap-up about how much he loved Jayne. And it's a little weird, because they never actually tell us if the kids survived. So why make that like a reveal at the end of the movie? Seems like an important point to say like, oh, and by the way, the kids are fine. They are fine. Well, you know, they survived. Probably should have mentioned that, though, in the movie. I think this one actually accomplished Arnold's goal of getting exposure without damaging his reputation. He's given a lot to do, and he gives a decent TV performance. And he gets to say Playboy like this.
All I need is an angle. I mean, just one more really good spread in Playboy.
Playboy.
That's a win. And finally, we come to the most interesting piece in this yard sale, the comeback. As I documented in my Pumping Iron episode, Arnold came out of retirement in 1975 to be a part of Pumping Iron and to help the sport of bodybuilding, then promptly retired again. But did you know Arnold came out of retirement a second time in 1980? Well, he did, and it's documented in The Comeback. The story goes, as Arnold was training for the role of Conan, he got himself into insane shape. Leading up to the 1980 Mr. Olympia contest, Arnold was supposed to show up and do commentary for a CBS broadcast. But instead, he devised a plan to enter the contest, giving himself just 8 weeks to train, which is insane considering he only gave himself 7 months to come out of retirement the first time for Pumping Iron. And so director Kit Laughlin followed Arnold as he trained rigorously for the contest. And this is a much different Arnold than we saw in Pumping Iron. He's more humble, he's less cocksure.
I was worried from the time I stepped on a stage for the first round. It's amazing how insecure you get after not being on stage for 5 years.
It's clear he's been out of competition for a while and is almost operating on instinct or trying to find his drive to stay hungry.
I'm a strong believer also in a Western philosophy of conquering, of achieving, of climbing, of getting higher and higher to the top and all those things. Because that's, in my opinion, what life is all about, is living rich rather than just existing and just wasting away your life, since we only have one, you know.
At 46 minutes, this is less a documentary and more of a publicity shoot. It's mostly extended sequences of anonymous bodybuilders posing. In fact, it composes of 27 of the 46-minute runtime. Just so much flexing! Not exactly a deep dive into the psychology of bodybuilders, but if you like seeing veins where you probably shouldn't see veins, this is the movie for you. Everyone is kept at a distance, and the movie just feels like it was rushed. They spend some time with another bodybuilder, Tom Platz, whose entire personality seems to be, Arnold is a god, and if he entered this contest, I would totally lose. When the time comes for the contest, Arnold does enter, and he wins his 7th Mr. Olympia title. The crowd roars, and all is well. At least, according to the documentary. But here's the thing, and the reason why I call this a publicity shoot. There is so much more to this story. In the time leading up to the contest, there was all this speculation that Arnold might consider entering the contest. The other bodybuilders had mixed feelings. Some thought it was unfair. Others thought Arnold would show up out of shape and tarnish his spotless record. They thought, oh, this is going to be pathetic. Ultimately, Arnold announced he was entering the contest the morning of the competition, shocking everyone. The other competitors were outraged, especially Mike Mentzer, a mustachioed Mr. Olympia who was considered the heavy favorite. In fact, during a press conference, Mentzer confronted Arnold, and apparently it almost came to blows. When Arnold showed up, he was disparaging and talking trash to all the other competitors, and he was even joking around on stage while everyone else took it insanely seriously. There's a little insight to that with one telling quote from Arnold in the doc.
You step back out of yourself and look at it of what you're doing and laugh about it, because it's all funny. Being the best built man in the world, very funny.
And there's a little bit of footage of him kind of messing around on stage, but other than that, it doesn't cover any of this. The shock apparently continued when Arnold went out for competition and everyone saw what shape he was in. While he retained incredible size in his arms and chest, apparently his legs and triceps and midsection lacked definition. Look at this clip. You can see exactly what they're talking about. Oh, Arnold, why? Oh, gross. Put on some sweatpants. Arnold did end up winning the competition in the first ever split decision, and when it was announced, the third place competitor jumped off the stage yelling, "I can't believe it!" The audience booed the decision. Another bodybuilder smashed his consolation trophy backstage, and Mike Mentzer never competed again. And because of the controversy, CBS decided to not even air the contest. Unfortunately, none of that is in the comeback. It's a complete misfire. But hey, at least they got Arnold to do this weird joke advertisement for Jim Beam and placed it right in the middle of the final competition. It feels like they were just happy to get any footage of Arnold they could and didn't want to upset him by putting together something that was actually truthful. They don't even show the boos, which you can clearly hear in this raw footage. That's a shame. This could have been an interesting look into Arnold's mindset at the time. A mix of hubris, lack of discipline, selfishness, and a desire to compete no matter what. Arnold says in hindsight, "Training for the competition and winning again gave me pleasure. But in hindsight, I have to admit that the episode was not beneficial for the sport. It created a lot of divisiveness, and I could have handled it differently." Not only that, when Arnold showed up afterwards to shoot a preliminary scene for Conan, director John Milius took one look at him and told him he had to retrain again because his physique was all wrong for the Conan character after retraining for the Mr. Olympia competition. It's the reason why the King Conan shot at the end had him covered in robes and fur. They were trying to hide Arnold's Mr. Olympia physique. But we're going to talk a lot more about Conan next, and we are now finally in the clear. We are moving out of the doldrums of Arnold's early acting career and into his unprecedented reign as the greatest action hero of all time. And trust me, no one is happier than I am about this. And it all starts next episode with Conan the Barbarian. Oh, wait, hold on. There's something left on the yard that didn't sell. What is that?
Tonight, on the new dating game, you'll meet Arnold Schwarzenegger the current Mr. Olympia.
Okay, it's lady number 3. I've only been in this country 5 years, and there are some expressions I still don't understand. What does it mean, hanky-panky?
Well, let's see if you understand this. Playing around.
Playing around with what? Maybe lady number 1 can tell me that. Girl number 1.
Hanky-panky is being really sexy.
But who is it? What is it?
Hanky-panky is not a person. Definitely not a person.
So it's an
It's a
action.
thing you do when you're with 2 people of the opposite sex or 2 people that...
Okay,
like...
sex. Thank you.
Here are your very own water skis. Those are for you, Kay, and those are for you, Arnold.
Because he was saving his physique for Conan O'Brien. Holy shit.